Welcome back to another Post-Media Ottawa Senators panel. I'm Bruce Garrioch, pleased to be joined today by Wayne Scanlan of Sportsnet.ca and former Ottawa Citizen columnist, and Nick St-Pierre, the French play-by-play voice of the Ottawa Senators on Unique 94.5 FM. And as we speak, the Senators are in California, and they've got a tough road trip here. The quarter mark of the season is next Wednesday night against the Vancouver Canucks. And I think as we sit here today, the Senators have not played up to the expectations of anybody in this market. I think we all thought they would be better, Nick. And just what have you seen to this point of the season?
I've seen hope. I've seen some mistakes that were committed last year that were still being repeated this year. I always try to see the glass half full, and we have to look at the progress of some players. Batterson, for me, is definitely one of the bright spots in this lineup. So a little bit like Groundhog Day compared to last season. Definitely a disappointing performance. Yeah. Let's keep in mind that there's been a lot of things that were out of control, which the first one I think is COVID. But at the end of the day, if I sum up what's going on right now, it's not definitely a good thing. But I hope that we'll be able to resettle the things properly, and we'll see this team have its share of success with the rest of the season.
Wayne, when Nick talks about things that they can't control, one is the COVID-19 outbreak, and we saw 3 games postponed. But for this team to improve, they have, in my opinion, have got to clean up their act defensively.
Well, that's what, when you talked about, you asked Nick for a broad assessment. I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was defensive zone coverage. When we saw it again the other night that Colorado was kind of there to be had, and they kind of let that game get away. They had a late lead, and they can't protect in those key situations when it's time to bear down. But like Nick, we're trying to be optimistic here. We didn't really expect this was maybe going to be a playoff team, but what's disappointing, Bruce, is to see them so far out of the picture. I mean, they're sitting last overall most days when you pick up the paper and look at the standings. It's just not where they expected to be. And my hope is that, when Batherson gets back and they recover physically and mentally from that COVID experience, and it's kind of all hands on deck, that they could, make something happen. It doesn't have to be a run to a playoff spot, but at least win some games and play some entertaining hockey.
Well, and that's right, Wayne. And I think this is just what people want to see, is them get themselves back to the point where there's respectability, right? Where they likely aren't going to make the playoffs, but at least put themselves back in the mix. And I don't think any team guys could withstand the loss of 2 of its centers. And 2 guys that they counted on. They've lost Colin White for pretty much the season with shoulder surgery. They haven't confirmed this yet, but the expectation is that Shane Pinto will have shoulder surgery after missing 9 games, coming back for 20 minutes and dislocating the shoulder again. And so he's pretty much going to be gone for the season when that procedure is done. One of the things we're seeing on this Western road trip is Tim Stuetzle at center. How long that's going to last, nobody knows. But people have wanted to see this, Wayne, so they're going to get their wish. How does that change Tim Stuetzle's game?
Well, I love how this has come about just when social media was starting to talk in some circles about maybe Stuetzle needs to go down to the American Hockey League. Hey, he's sliding over to center ice. So, you know what, I love this. I think people have been clamoring for it for a long time. He's historically a center. He kind of grew up in that position. He's a typical kind of a scat back center. He's got the wheels. He can spin and turn, and I think we'd all like to see him there. And let's face it, he's not exactly lighting it up on the wing. It's tough slogging over there for him. He's still going down a lot. I think this is going to be fun to see how it turns out. And he's going to be with a couple of responsible defensive players, but and there will be more responsibility on him as a center. He's supposed to be kind of like the third defenseman back there, and that'll be a big ask. But for now, it's just a new look, and maybe just to brighten up his his season a little bit.
Nick?
I think the only guy we haven't tried to that position is the Zamboni driver. So I'm so happy that we came to this conclusion. And yes, I'm among the people that are excited to see Stuetzle at center. Natural position. He said himself that he was happy to try it. We'll see what happens. It cannot be worse than what we've seen so far. If he can bring some depth and find a stride being the center, I'm happy. I see it positively, and I hope we're not going to be impatient with him. Let him have like a few reps, a few games, have a real idea of what he can do, and keep in consideration that is it really that kind of line he would play on in a normal situation on the second line? I don't think so. So let's see what he can do with the elements that we have on the wings. And after that, we'll be able to assess really what Stuetzle can be as a regular center in the NHL.
Guys, and either one of you can take this, I'm not sure. My assumption would be, and I think it's exciting too. I've been wanting to see this, quite frankly, since he came to the NHL, and I understood them not wanting to rush Stuetzle into that position because their responsibilities go with it. But guys, do either of you expect that Nick Paul would take the faceoffs because Stuetzle hasn't taken a faceoff in 3 years, and then just do a switchback as soon as the puck is dropped? I was thinking that might be the situation.
I think you'll see some of that in the defensive zone, Bruce.
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with Wayne. Nick Paul on the strong side in the defensive zone, he will take those draws. And don't forget, Stuetzle had the hand injury. I think they want to be careful. You know, the center ice position, there's a lot of jostling, a lot of stick work on the faceoff dot, and they'll try to protect him a little bit.
Nick, is there going to be a lot more responsibility on him in that position?
Of course, definitely. Yeah. Center is definitely one of the pivotal position. Definitely a lot of responsibilities, particularly in your D zone. And I know Stuetzle is definitely, well, right now it's not his cup of tea, maybe, but being able to actually guide him and, like give him the chance, basically. He, like Wayne said, he's a natural center. So, like, if he had success at it at the lower level, well, why can't he have it like at the NHL? So just be patient with him. He's going to have definitely a lot of headaches probably for the first starts, but the moment he finds his strides, could be positive.
This week is American Thanksgiving, and as we know, that always seems to be a jumping off point for teams to evaluate where they're at. Usually you're at the 20-game mark. Senators have been a little slowed by that because of the 5-day break for COVID-19. But one of the things that teams certainly, general managers certainly look at is making changes. And now whether it's a soft deal for depth or whether it's a deal to get a young player who might be here for a few years, should Pierre Dorion make a trade for a center? And Nick, we'll start with you.
Yes, but not the cute kind of transaction. If you want to go to bring someone, make a big transaction, one aggressive one, sacrifice some element like we talked earlier, and bring someone that can be here for the long run. I don't believe in the guys, the veterans that are coming here and just finishing their career. We need someone that will have an impact and that will be able to have an impact for the long run. That's what I want to see. And if we can't do that, well, let's stick with what we have and hope for the best.
And Wayne, look, and I'm sure that this is something that Pierre Dorion's looking at. Wayne, they have the assets. Did they have 11 draft picks in the? And you know what? I shouldn't even throw a number up, but let's put it this way: they have a lot of assets in the next draft. They also have a lot of prospects in this organization. There is an ability there, right, Wayne, to make a deal?
Oh, absolutely. And how many years have they been, top, kind of acquiring draft picks as they go along and rebuilding. They've really been in a rebuild all this time. The rebuild's supposed to be over. But yeah, I agree with you, Bruce. It's time to think about some assets, giving up some draft picks, maybe giving up a young player, adding some depth. I think they want to be a little bit careful. I mean, you don't want to take on a lot of money. You don't want to take on an aging player. I think as Nick says, you want somebody that's young and maybe going to fit into the program long term, or maybe just someone just to patch things up this year. When you're missing Pinto and White at center, maybe there's a depth guy to pick up without taking on much term.
One of the things that as we get ready to wrap up here is that we're going to be keeping an eye on over the course of the next 10 days or so is the goaltending. And I see no reason why this club wouldn't try running Philip Gustafson in there, Wayne. I believe, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, I believe that Matt Murray's at the point here where he has to earn his starts. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, he's got to come around. He's got to brighten up. I mean, we were at that first practice together, Bruce, when the Sens came back after their COVID experience, and he wasn't taking a lot of shots. He, kind of moving kind of gingerly out there. I think it's time for him to up his game. And my concern with Gustafson, as well as he's played, like he's getting killed back there. I mean, he's under siege a lot of the time, and I can see why they've got 3 goalies. I think they're going to need them down the stretch.
Yeah, and how do you kind of see this playing out, Nick? Are you at the point where they should ride Gus the bus and see where this goes?
At the moment we're talking right now, who's the only of the 3 that have a percentage on top of 900? Gustafson. Let's start with that. Gustafson, I understand Wayne saying that he's being attacked and he has a lot of workload, but live and learn. And I think it's the best way for him. I'm not talking about confidence. He has good reps at the NHL level. And if it can prepare him better for the next year, I have no problem with that. And let's start with the excuse that it's a 2-24 and we have to be able to protect him and keep him fresh and all that. I don't believe in that. He had a lot of experience in the AHL. He played in the minors. You've seen a lot in 3-3 and all that stuff. I believe in Gustafson, Gus the bus all the way, 100% with that.
Ride them. Maybe you can take them down the stretch and have a miracle run like the Hamburglar. You never know. Guys, you know what? The Senators have gotten off to a disappointing start in the first quarter of the season, but I think when we look at it, next time we get together, Wayne and I have to improve our backgrounds, and we got to move you to a different place, Nick, because you're just making us look bad. For Post Media in Ottawa, I'm Bruce Garrioch with Nick St-Pierre of Unique 94.5 FM and Wayne Scanlan of Sportsnet.ca. Thanks for joining us.